Hey, welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey, coming at you with another fantastic January guest today. And I do want to just repeatedly thank Rico James and my man Rodney Linehart for putting that video together for me for the intro. I know that the kick drum is a little loud. We're working on that. Just give me a little time. And before I bring on my guest today, I do just want to do the usuals here, guys. I want to shout out some of my previous guests. If you watched the show yesterday, was it yesterday? Box Guts, a great MC here, artist, as you can see here, doing some super dope artwork. Nancy Wallace down in Oklahoma, nancyzone.com. Please check out Nancy's work. I really like Nancy. She's my kind of people. I had Rob Skier on the show talking about his new album, Water. I had Charles McGowan from Sambo Creek Filtration, and I had Joseph Calderon from Grateful Valley Farm here in the Cannabis Farmers Alliance. And I'm going to leave it there because I think it's going to tie into the conversation that we're having tonight. And I do just want to also give a couple shout outs. So on Sunday, I got another PhD scientist coming on the show, Dr. Carl Craig. Super excited to have Carl on. I just talked to him yesterday on the phone. And then Tuesday, the 30th, I got Brad Racino coming back from New York Cannabis Insider. And if you guys didn't watch our last interview, you got to check out what Brad's doing. In my opinion, Brad is the top journalist on the East Coast when it comes to cannabis. So really excited to have Brad back. And then Thursday, February 1st, I got Keith Stroop, who is the founder of Normal. Strupp, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, Keith, but super excited to have Keith on the show as well. You know, and then February 4th, I got my homegirl Gina Tron coming on. We're going to talk about some of the advocacy she's done in New York for victims of sexual assault. So that was, happy to have Gina on the show. All right. And then without further ado, we did all the priors. Yeah. So my guest tonight is someone that was referred to me by a homie here in Vermont. I've had at least one of his friends. I believe Joseph Calderon is a guy who's acquainted with this gentleman. But without further ado, wham, bam, it's Steve Halton. Thank you for joining me tonight, Steve.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yo, before we do anything serious, hang on. I got to get you in the big box. Here we go.
I don't know if I deserve all that now, but thank you.
Steve, would you mind giving us a 5-minute life story?
Wow. Yeah. So where do I begin? Let's see. I don't know. I grew up working on my family's farm. I grew up in Las Vegas. I used to come out to New York to work at my family's dairy farm every summer. I had this big dream of being a farmer when I got older. And, I moved to New York and, kind of paid my dues and worked my way up and started kind of my own farm operation and, was raising livestock and doing some crops and everything else. And then New York State opened up the hemp pilot program, and I saw an opportunity. Now, I wanted to grow high quality textile fiber, which is actually what's over here is some of that textile quality fiber. I wanted to grow that fiber, but when I talked to New York State about getting licensed to grow that, they said that's great, but there's no processors. So I kind of saw an opportunity to get my license to be a processor. In the end of 2017, I think it was, I got my license and formed CNY hemp processing with that focus on hemp fiber. I mean, we did start processing some grain, as well, but, and really everything that I've done since I got into the hemp industry was trying to build industry and build infrastructure, trying to create markets and develop new products. I did purchase a decorticator, the machine that you use to separate the bast fiber, which is the outside of that stalk, from the herd to the center of the stalk. And also we got into hemp grain processing, was pressing the hemp seed oil and, did a cosmetic line, some hair care products. And then I also was making animal feed out of the seed cake, which honestly I got to meet some of the great people with the Hemp Feed Coalition, and got to be able to join them and be a member of that Hemp Feed Coalition. And through that, I met a lot of great people in the industry. I started doing some work with SUNY Morrisville. They actually let me help out with helping out with some of their cannabis curriculum. We've done a couple of grant projects together, and it kind of led into being able to have the opportunity to jump into the quote unquote cannabis industry in New York, to be able to be an adult use cultivator. And that's that I'm sure we'll talk about quite a bit during this time. It's the adult use end. So
yes, we will, Steve. That was lovely timing there. I'd like to ask you, it sounded like you had one of the very early hemp licenses in New York. Is that correct?
Yep. I was license number 4 actually in the state of New York for processing.
And how was the application process? How did that go for you when you were doing that? What you said, 2017 or 18 or somewhere back there?
2017, I got the license. I mean, I didn't open up the first facility until the beginning of 2019, I think it was. I mean, it was tough. I mean, during that time, it was the CBD craze. And I mean, that was, pre 2018 Farm Bill. So, but everyone was really excited about CBD, and it was tough because trying to find investment and everything else for that. Every time I'd reach out to an investor to try to move forward on the project, they would say, well, that's, what about CBD? Why focus on hemp fiber? Why focus on textiles? Why focus on grain? And I would always tell people, hemp has 50,000 plus uses. CBD is one. Why not focus on the 49,999 other uses instead of just that one? New York State was really, New York State has really embraced the hemp fiber industry. So, it was really supportive. It really wasn't that bad as far as hurdles to get into hemp fiber processing. Even now, I actually have the honor of being on the Hemp Grain Fiber Counsel or work group under New York State Department of Ag and Markets. So, really trying to move fiber processing ahead and fiber cultivation. I really think the Northeast is a really good area for fiber processing or fiber cultivation. A lot of people talk about the 31 to 41 days it takes to field ret hemp fiber to where the fiber can be properly removed from those stalks. But in the Northeast, we have those crazy temperature swings and the heavy amount of dew. It actually, we get beautifully retted fiber within 19 days, which is unheard of. And it's just, I get excited about hemp fiber. I geek out about
it. Nerd.
Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah.
Yo, I got a physics degree too. I'm in there. Yeah. Would you tell us a little bit? You mentioned this earlier, the Decorticator. That was something I'd never heard about until I spoke to you. I'd like to hear a little bit about that, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's so. I did buy a Decorticator when I first did get some seed money, some seed capital to start the company. And basically it's a machine that separates that bast fiber, that external fiber off of the stalks. But the machine that I bought, I caught a lot of flack because I bought it from overseas. Everyone always said, oh, buy US. But at that time, there were no Decorticators being made in the United States. So I had to buy one overseas. And honestly, I made a lot of mistakes. Purchasing that first machine, I had no idea. And I was so naive as far as purchasing equipment from overseas. We got this Decorticator. It was not what I expected it to be. We've actually rebuilt it, I think 5 times or so. It actually works in reverse of what it's designed, but it does a halfway decent job as far as fiber processing or extraction does. But that kind of led into so much more because I felt like there was there were a lot of hurdles and a lot of obstacles as far as processing fiber. So we started to design some of our own equipment. And I do have a decorticator that I've been working on building. We've tested different parts of that machine that really solve a lot of issues as far as fiber processing. I mean, one main issue is unrolling the bales of fiber, and then it actually replaced. So the one that we're working on actually replaces 5 different pieces of equipment, because it'll not only pull that fiber off of the stalk, but it'll stretch out that fiber, it'll clean the fiber, it'll scrunch the fiber, and then card the fiber. So actually, separate all those individual pieces of fiber to be able to go into other high quality or value added products, and then also ready for blending of other natural fibers. That's one thing. Like here in the Northeast, there's a lot of farmers that raise fiber bearing animals like sheep or alpaca. So having an opportunity to be able to blend those animal fibers with plant fibers is really beneficial. I mean, really, we're helping all sorts of markets by moving that piece of equipment forward.
Interesting. You're blending plant fibers with animal fibers.
Yeah. I actually worked with a spinning mill near Albany that was already purchasing hemp roven from overseas and blending it with wool and making a 50-50 blend hemp wool yarn. So kind of like work backwards from what they were getting from overseas and forwards from what we were making, and that's where the decorticator design that we were working on. A lot of the information is on the website, the CNY hempprocessing.com.
Cool. And that was going to be my next question, is like, what are you guys doing with all these fibers? But it sounds like maybe it could be used for clothes. I'm guessing, as you said, 49,999 other uses for hemp. Yep,
absolutely. So, but I mean, there's different grades of fiber. I mean, it's just like the beef industry. Like you'd have like a grade A beef. I mean, there's certain fiber that works well being blended. Like if you're going to work with a cottonized hemp, something that would be a short fiber that you might mix with cotton, that would be a shorter length of fiber. And then even if you get shorter than that, you can get into into paper manufacturing, insulation, like you do like a blown in insulation, or like the insulation that's in your walls. Yeah. There's a lot of different grades. I mean, I was shooting for the long lengths of fiber. I was really happy with our decorticator that we already have. We were getting like 3 to 4 foot lengths of fiber, which is actually really, really long in the fiber industry. I mean, anything over a foot long is a pretty long fiber length to be able to get without it being broken. So I was really, really happy that we were able to get those long lengths of fiber.
Cool. And you mentioned earlier that you did some work with the New York Department of Ag. And I'd love to, and maybe some helped out with the SUNY college cannabis program. I'd love to hear about that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, New York State Department of Ag and Markets has been really supportive of the hemp pilot program, and then also moving forward now that they've adopted the USDA regulations. So I'm actually on 2 different work groups now within New York State to try to move some of that the fiber processing forward. One is the grain and fiber work group with Tim Sweeney, and then there's also a natural fiber work group that I work on as well. And I mean, but that's all different natural fibers. So that is plant and animal fibers as far as a work group to try to move that into more of a commercialization process. So it can actually move that forward to make more of an equitable market for those plant-based fibers and animal fibers. Because I mean, before I got into hemp, I had beefers and I was also, I mean, the farm originally was called Halton Hay. So, I mean, I was selling a lot of hay, and a lot of my hay customers were sheep farmers, and they were just throwing away their wool because there was no market. So, I mean, honestly, getting into hemp, it was beneficial to everybody because I could find a use for their lower quality wool and the hemp fiber to do a blend. So it was really creating a lot for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I remember going to an event at Cornell, and meeting, different people throughout the industry, including, some of the professors at SUNY Morrisville. And we've worked on a few projects together. There's definitely been a few grants that we've worked on. Unfortunately, none of them actually got funded, but that doesn't mean that we'll stop trying. And but I was really happy that SUNY Morrisville they did start a cannabis curriculum, and they've even talked about a workforce development program, which is really nice because being able to train future employees entering the workforce as far as understanding hemp and cannabis is super beneficial. And they do have the cannabis curriculum. I have helped out with some of the Canna 101 and 301 courses. And it's funny because I actually went to SUNY Morrisville, and I remember, I guess now that it's legal in New York State, it's okay to talk about. But, I remember back when I went to SUNY Morrisville, I used to think, man, I could grow a lot of weed in their greenhouses. And now it's cool to see weed in their greenhouses. It's kind of like that full circle. It's kind of cool to see how far things have come just within my time, here.
Word up. And did you mention that Cornell has like some kind of hemp, like a seed bank or something they're working on?
So I know, I don't want to misrepresent as far as what Cornell's doing, but I know that they have expressed having their own seed banks and everything else as far as hemp. I don't know because they're federally funded, so I don't think they do too much as far as the adult use end. But they've definitely done a lot of great research in hemp grain fiber and CBD. All different cultivars as far as hemp goes. I actually just had a great meeting with Larry Smart over at Cornell the other day. So no, they have a lot of great things going on. Again, I don't want to misrepresent what they have going on because they would talk about it a lot better than I could.
That's okay. Maybe Larry will come on the show. Larry, if you're listening, I'm here with Stephen Halton. We're talking about we're going to get into the New York stuff here. Thanks for joining me again tonight here and back in the big box with you. So, okay. And then, my next note, which you kind of touched on also here is, I believe you say you've got this supposed opportunity to get into the adult use game. And I've had I got a comment here. Let me pull that up. Hey, it's Joseph Calderon. Cal says a USDA hemp germplasm bank. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Thanks for tuning in, Joseph. I appreciate you, man.
I do too. Thanks, Joe.
And I definitely got to ask you about the Cannabis Farmers Alliance, but we're going to get to that later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, where was I at? Oh yeah, got the supposed opportunity to get into the adult use game. And, so I've had Brad Bracino on from New York Cannabis Insider. I had Paula Collins on talking about some of the regulatory framework over in New York, had Joseph on. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to hear your take about, clearly you got experience in the hemp game. And a lot of people I know got into the hemp game because they were planning to transition to the adult use game. And I'd love to hear about your thoughts on that, please, Steve.
Yeah. So, it's yeah. Where do I begin? It's that's a tough one. So I appreciate the opportunity. Honestly, like from the state, I'm really happy that we had the opportunity. It's a difficult one because I feel like with hemp we were research partners. Originally the hemp pilot program in New York State we were research partners. That's literally what our license outlined. And then being a conditional cultivator, I feel like we're research partners, but we paid to do all the research. As a farmer, we paid for all of that, and it's been tough. And I know, hindsight's 2020. And one thing that I've tried to talk to people about, is anyone that was in the hemp industry or the hemp, whatever we want to call it. I don't know if it's really an industry or not, but the hemp market or whatever in New York State, anyone that's struggling right now in New York State in the adult use, I try to tell them, just go back in time and talk to yourself pre-Farm Bill, and what would you do to be able to survive that? Because honestly, there's a lot of repeats, but in some ways it's even worse. It's yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice if there was more of a market, but again, I'm really happy to have the opportunity, to be able to be on the ground floor and be able to have the opportunity to be one of the first cultivators in the state. I'm honored. I wish that we had a little bit more of an opportunity to be able to develop our brand and develop that market before big names came in. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, honestly, my heart breaks for some of the people that are just now entering the adult use industry in New York State, because unfortunately there's a lot stacked against them. But I mean, not to say that it's not impossible, but you got to just be able to survive for a while to make it through everything.
Would you mind giving us a picture of maybe what is stacked against them?
Well, I mean, as a cultivator, originally we were promised X amount of dispensaries. I think it was like 20 dispensaries opened within that first year. There was only one that opened. So,
One.
I mean,
One?
There was one the first year. Yeah. I mean, now I think we're up to 50, I think. I don't know. I've heard a couple of different numbers, and it's tough because, OCM thinks it's okay to be able to have cultivators full information on their website, but not dispensaries. And you would think it would be the other way around. I mean, I still think about my guerrilla grow days, and I really don't want anyone knowing where my cultivation is, but it's okay to put my information out, but not the stores that they want to, that they want people to buy their stuff from. And I mean, again, hindsight's 2020. I think that different things could have been, a lot of things could have been done differently. But realistically, we just have to talk about survival. Now the ROs or the medical, companies are now able to enter the recreational market, which has made things difficult because realistically, they're the only ones that can do indoor flower, because in New York State, the only licenses were outdoor cultivation and mixed light greenhouse. So now the ROs are able to come in with a fully established vertically integrated footprint with indoor flower and being able to offer it at a cheaper price than a lot of the cultivators. So I mean, really, it's a difficult situation for the smaller people to get into this. There is a nice opportunity with the micro license, which a micro license is basically, the only opportunity for vertical integration within New York State, to where you can, grow and process and even do distribution and retail. But again, micro, it's on a small scale, but it is an opportunity because, realistically, you're able to get those retail prices, as long as you're in an area that didn't opt out, which is another headache.
And so that sounds kind of like Vermont, where every town was allowed to hold the opt-in vote if they wanted to allow retail sales in the area. Is that similar to what's going on in New York?
Yeah, and they pretty much gave all these townships the option. So it's like you can opt out, but you still have the option to opt back in if you want to. But if you opted in, you can't opt out, right? So it kind of scared a lot of these little townships to where like, oh no, I better opt out first, and then figure out what happened. So it makes it really, really difficult. And then again, with like a lot of the illicit businesses that are opening up, a lot of the smoke shops that are selling, cannabis without an actual cannabis retailer's license, has made things really difficult. And unfortunately, again, that's one of those things like hindsight's 2020. The state kind of created an illegal market because they made cannabis legal, but then there were no retail outlets, and they were just licensing cultivators, But again, like how that makes it difficult. what would be the right steps on that one? I mean, does that mean like make it continually illegal while they let cultivators grow and build, and be able to have product that could go to market? I mean, I'm not really sure how that could have worked, but I mean,
great question. Great question, Steve. Sorry to cut you off, but how do you make that work? Because especially in some markets where it has a super high cost of entry, it seems like in my opinion, as my 2 cents, is that they're not exactly encouraging some folks to enter the regulated market. It seems a lot of hoops to jump through. It's a lot of fees and money you got to pay.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think there's a lot of there's a lack of knowledge, that and it's tough because that's something. I mean, that's something I've even dealt with the whole hemp industry. I mean, there's such a lack of information that's not available to the consumer, and I mean, a lot of people think that it's ridiculously expensive to be able to get into the industry, and it's really not that bad. I mean, in the grand scheme, I know coming up with some of the licensing fees is difficult, but when you look at like what the actual price of the license is, it's not awful. But again, like, people talk to me and they're like, well, what do you mean you're not in this dispensary in this town? And it's like, well, that dispensary is illegal. I mean, there's like 2,500 illegal dispensaries in New York State and only 50 legal ones. I mean, people don't really know, and it's difficult. I mean, that's hurting everybody with all these illegal shops. I don't know, and it's tough. Again, like the misinformation. I see like different things on social media to where this smoke shop gets shut down by the state because they're selling illegal products, and I mean, all of the people that are commenting on these posts are talking about how, oh, I can't believe you're hurting small business, and it's like, but these small businesses are operating illegally. If they had a license and were collecting the proper taxes and actually purchasing from New York State cultivators, because I mean that is one thing that I have to say that New York State did a really good job, is saying that anything that's sold legally in New York State has to be grown in New York State. I mean, that is a really big initiative. That is keeping companies out of New York. I mean, there are brands and things like that are entering, that are doing branding deals, but they're doing branding deals with New York State farms, which I mean is kind of a nice thing. I mean, I'm not saying that the state got it all wrong. And again, like, I could look back at my life and see all the things that I did wrong and how I would have done things differently. But I mean, all we can do is try to move forward and try to make right of the mess that we have.
Here's JT Bedard. He says, so handsome.
I'm not Photoshop, damn it.
And thank you for connecting us, Joel. I appreciate it. I'm here, and hey, I'm gonna bring myself up. I'm here with Stephen Halton. We're having a great chat here, and this is gonna get fun in a minute. I would like to hear about the license, these AUCC license. That's the cultivator license in New York, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and what is that? What does that license entail? What does that give you? Like, is there different tiers? Like in Vermont for cultivation, we have tiers 1 through 5. Is it a tiered structure in New York, or what do you guys got going on over there?
So right now, the AUCC stands for Adult Use Conditional Cultivator. So that's the license that the hemp farmers were able to get, and then now we're in a little bit of a restructuring and the license changing. So now they're offering like kind of the permanent cultivation. So under an AUCC, now, I mean, we did solely outdoor. So we were able to do 1 acre of canopy. So it's what, 43,500 square feet or something roughly like that we were able to do outdoor. Now, and I mean, they did have mixed light licenses with a greenhouse and stuff, but I mean, that's not my forte. So I'm not sure what the structure was on that one. But now, so we are going into, so there is a tiered licensing for us to continue growing what we're doing. I was going after a tier 4 outdoor cultivation. I'd like to shoot for like the 42,000 square feet. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind a tier 5. Obviously, the price difference is pretty crazy. But I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I see a lot of shifts in the market. Now some of the cultivators are switching to those micro licenses. So there's, there might be a little bit of a limitation as far as the flower that's going to the dispensaries, but then also a need for the processors. The processors are going to need biomass and things like that. So now New York State is setting up a tiered licensing. I know that the outdoor cultivation is tiered. There is a tiered indoor, which I think should be coming out pretty soon. I am interested in doing the indoor as well, and I've been debating on the processor's license. I did apply for a processor's license just because it's been kind of difficult. Again, like talking, like how would I, if I go back in time and talk to people that pre-Farm Bill, the processors really were able to control a lot of the market. And again, that's something that's also happening. And then the brokers, man, the brokers are getting pretty bad too. I mean, the brokers were bad in hemp, but I got to say the brokers in adult use are a whole different breed. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably do a whole nother hour about that one. The chat.
Yeah, and so and we'll follow up on that. I'll make a note of that one for next time. But one of the other things I was curious about is because it sounds like, at least from you and everyone else I've talked to in New York, the licenses were delayed in getting rolled out, especially for the dispensaries. And if you're a cultivator and you went ahead and like grew a bunch of stuff, and now you have nowhere to sell it, I imagine that has to be pretty frustrating. I don't know if you have any experience with that, but I was curious, if people geared up for this market and then didn't have an outlet for their product that they grew.
Yeah, it's I was licensed in May of 22, and so did the whole season. I mean, fortunately, I did one strain, one cultivar. We did a Spiritus Sanctum, which is a cross between Trinity and Triangle Kush. Got those from Goat and Monkey Seeds, and did really well. And I'm really happy. Yeah, really happy that we did just the one strain, because I didn't know what we were going into. I didn't know what the market was going to be like. When I was looking for genetics, I just wanted something that had a relatively short growing season, something that was mold and mildew resistant, something that would do well in the Northeast. I mean, I wasn't shooting for a super high THC or anything. I was trying to go in it as a farmer and understanding what I could grow. And in worst case scenario, if everything went to biomass, then so be it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely was tough. I mean, even getting licensed in, May of 22, I didn't get my first sale until November of 23. So that was really tough. So I mean, again, because of the lack of market, and then there were certain processors and entities that would stack license, so they'd get multiple cultivator licenses under one location, which really limited what was available for farmers. And then that slow rollout. I mean, it's tough when there's 250 cultivators and only at that time, when I finally got my sales, I think there was like 25 dispensaries. I mean, throughout the whole state. I mean, New York's a pretty big state, and a good portion of those were in the 5 boroughs in the city. So, I mean, it was difficult, and now it's nice to see that there's more dispensaries that are opening up. More people. I mean, I think there's something like 800 people that were granted the card license, the conditional adult use recreational dispensary license, and to have so few that actually were able to open up. Now, I mean, I know there's a ton of different things, and again, we could probably spend another hour on conspiracy theories and all this other stuff, but we could save that for another time. So hopefully you'll have me back. But I mean, it sucked because there were lawsuits. That slowed down the rollout. I don't think that people fully understood what was involved with getting into this industry. So, I mean, again, could go back and change a lot of different things, but all we can do is deal with what we have. But things are moving, and again, for biomass to go into distillate, the prices dropped significantly because there was no market. And again, like sometimes the processors would have some of the stacked licenses, so they had enough biomass they didn't need anymore. And then with the lack of market, they're sitting on distillate, and then there might be shady players that are bringing in Delta 8 or something and pushing that into the legal market. Again, driving prices down, and and unfortunately, the processors, did control the market again. They controlled what tolling prices were, and distribution and everything. So it's been difficult. It's been really difficult. But all we can do is come up with a plan and move forward. So I mean, and that's one of the things that kind of led to the formation of the CFA, or the Cannabis Farmers Alliance.
Oh yeah. Hey, you're gonna do my next segue for me?
Do you want to lead into it, or you want? I have no idea, but
I think you just did. So
yeah.
And,
so
I had Joseph on the show. We talked about this. And I'd love to hear your take on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting, interesting thing how we all got together. It was kind of it was seven of us, I think it was, and we ended up meeting in Geneva. So and I joke around that instead of burning bras for women's rights, we were burning cannabis for cannabis farmers' rights. And one thing kind of led to another. We were like, oh man, we should do something because there's no market, and we got organized. And I mean, we joke around about the different values that we have and things. But I mean, honestly, looking at the cannabis industry in general, not just in New York State, but in California and every other legal state, the stakeholders that were represented were usually the processors and distribution and retail, but the farmers really weren't. Nobody really did anything for the farmers. So, that was something that we were doing, is trying to really benefit the farmers, because I mean, we're all cogs in the same gear. We're all trying to work together. We're all part of this industry. We all need each other. But I mean, to have the voices of the farmer heard is really important, because honestly, we were catching the short end of the stick, and we ended up meeting up and dumping some cannabis on the steps of Albany, because I mean, there was no market. So if we had nothing to do with it, they might as well take it and do something with it. That
was my next segue. Sorry to cut you off there, but you got my next segue done for me there too. I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah, that was a good time. I mean, it was a lot of fun. A lot of there were other people that met up with us. It was very humbling to see how many people that were actually interested in the cause and wanted more of an equitable market, for cannabis in New York State. It was also really cool to see everyone walking by after we were done. Like, I mean, all the people that would stop and be like, "Oh, what's this?" and want to pick it up and take pictures. So that was a good time. So I mean, it's but it started out with 7 of us getting together, and it's tough because I know Joseph and Tess both have the numbers, but I think we're right around like 160, 180 members or something like that. We also have a Facebook group called the Cannabis Farmers Alliance, or CFA. There's over 1,200 people that are in that group. So I mean, a lot of cannabis advocates all across the country that are in that group. So. And we're really trying to do everything we can to help the farmers, because I mean, we're struggling. I mean, basically in New York State, we bankrolled this whole industry. I mean, we have processors that that will give us, we'll say, interesting terms. I don't want to burn any bridges, not yet. But they give us some interesting terms. They'll give us 33% after 90 days, and then another 33% after 60 days after that, and then final amount after everything is sold. And I mean, we're broke by the time we get that final payment. And then the same thing, like some of the retail, the retails, they want net 30, but then only pay us for what sells. And I mean, that's not how traditional retail is done. You place an order, you pay for your order, and so I mean, basically we've been fronting everything. And I mean, there's some really good farmers that have gone out of business. I mean, I know, like, and it's so difficult because some of our members, I mean, like second and third generation farms that have now closed. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's entirely because of cannabis, because I mean, listen, there's a lot of sides to the story. I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, it could have been mismanagement. I don't really know, but I mean, it is really sad to where they do the last hurrah in hopes to get into cannabis to be able to help them out. And it doesn't pan out, so it's difficult. But I mean, again, like, that's the risk of getting into a new industry. And it's tough. I mean, my heart breaks. I mean, honestly, like, I have my own struggles. I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. That's for sure. I mean, it's the struggle is real. And you can't. I mean, sometimes I wish I had a crystal ball so I could figure out what consumers really wanted, because what I get excited about, they don't, you know what I mean? And that's a difficult one, I mean, and again, the education, that's the consumer thinks that they just want the highest THC, to where really we need to focus on the entourage effect, all the cannabinoids, the terpenes, and the benefits of everything that's within this plant. I mean, it's medicine, I mean, honestly, I feel like if someone's shooting for something that's 30% THC, I mean, I feel like they need a hug and some hot chocolate and some therapy or something. Who hurt you? Why do you need to numb yourself? Like, why? So, but I mean, that's just my personal one. So, I mean, I try to put in strains to try to figure out what the market wants. I mean, I was really happy to put in White Widow last year. I mean, I grew that back in the 90s, Cannabis Cup winner. Was I think 90, 93, and 94, where White Widow was Cannabis Cup winner. So I was really happy to have that. I joke around that I used to sell that back in the day to pay for rent, and I'm still trying to sell it to pay for rent. So, it is what it is.
The more things change.
Yeah.
Did you mention earlier that you dumped flour on the steps of the Capitol building?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And could you maybe just tell us a little bit more about that? Because that was funny to me, and I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, if you want to see a picture of that, you can actually go to cannabisfarmers.org, which is the website for the CFA, and there is a picture of us on the steps of Albany with the flour dumped right in front of that. And again, it's just because there was no market. I mean, we were frustrated, and we were also trying to fight the ROs coming into the industry, I guess, prematurely. I mean, they're here, they're going to be here. There's no fighting that. But we just had concerns as far as being able to create an equitable. Oh, there you go. You're bringing that up. I'm not in the big spot anymore. If you go to the about us, there should be a little tab that says about us.
Oh, about us. Here we are. About us. Let's see. I wasn't going to navigate, but here you guys are. That looks like
yeah. There we go. Yeah. And there's Joe and myself. Yep.
Yeah, that's Joe. Okay, cool. I was going to say, who are these people here? Oh, and you just dumped a bunch of... Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So check out the website, guys, cannabisfarmers.org.
Mm-hmm. Hey. It's the website's a work in progress. So, there'll be more updates, and we're working on a blog and also events and fundraisers that should be up and coming. So
yeah, cool. And what you said you got like 150, 160 members in there in the Cannabis Farmers Alliance?
Yeah, I mean, we originally it was just sign up and join. I mean, there is a small fee, just kind of like an administrative fee to be able to join that. So, but yeah, no, it's really nice. I mean, we have lots of meetings. I mean, as a board member, we have a ton of meetings just to try to move things forward, for our members and just for cannabis farmers in general. I mean, it's not it's not like we're just out to benefit our members. You know, it's really the entire industry. You know, as far as farmers go, I mean, even though I'm going after, you know, solely the cultivator, and I mean, I still want to see the micro businesses. I want to see indoor, you know what I mean? And again, like, you know, even though, yeah, in that picture, you know, we were trying to make sure that there was an equitable market. So to slow down the ROs being able to enter. But I mean, the ROs, you know, they're here, you know, and we have to, you know, do what we can. We have to work side by side one way or another. So.
And the ROs are like, these are like the larger corporations, from what I've gathered, you know.
So basically the medical right now, the medical, you know, cannabis companies are the ones that are able to enter into the adult use now. So I mean it's made, again, it's made things difficult. Like I said, they're producing a product that normal farmers can't produce at a price cheaper than we can. So, but hopefully we can collaborate with them, you know, and again, be able to make an equitable market for everyone. You know, I mean, we have to work together. We have to play nice. So, hopefully.
You don't have to, but that's a nice sentiment. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm getting towards the end of my list here. I did want to ask you about something else, which I talked to Brad Racino about earlier today, which was some of the public meetings in New York seem to be getting canceled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, we could probably go. I mean, I feel like we should have a whole hour dedicated to conspiracy theories. We could have a lot of fun. I could think of a few people we could probably pull on that one and do a round table. You know, I would really like to think that instead of OCM wanting to let in just the 10 people that they had published on their list, that maybe they were looking at more of the applicants to be able to make this again a more of an equitable, you know, market by letting more people in. I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I think that OCM is trying to figure it out as they go, but aren't we all? You know, like, so again, like, I have no idea what strains people want. I'm trying to do what I can. I've got some gelato and purple kush in hopes that people will buy that next year. So maybe, but yeah, I mean, I hope that in the future OCM has, you know, more of a farmer representation on their cannabis control board, because I really feel like the voice of the farmer should be represented on that control board. You know, I mean, as of right now, there are processors. There's a processor, I believe, that's on that, and you know, I mean, I think that being able to have more, you know, they need to be in touch with more of the people that are supposed to be working with them, you know, on that board, because again, like the farmers are not properly represented, and it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. So
it's frustrating for me, and I'm not even a farmer.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that it's got to be difficult for someone who's trying to start a business, man.
Yeah, and I mean the taxes are crazy. I really hope that. I mean, the governor had supposedly talked about the possibility of repealing the potency tax. I mean, I really hope that they do, because it's difficult, because it's kind of interesting. I mean, the way the taxes are in New York State, and I mean, like, I understand that you know, tax. So the only way to actually say that it's legal cannabis is because of the tax, right? So it has to be taxed at some point. But I mean, this potency tax is pretty crazy, because I mean, honestly, again, like, farmers are being penalized for producing a higher quality product. Again, the consumer wants a 30% THC. You realize the amount of tax that's in that. I mean, I have you know, some of my flower that tests out around 25% THC, and again, we have to collect tax per milligram, you know, per unit. My ounces, it's $36 in tax. You know. And that's pretty crazy. So that brings
that hurt my butt right there, Steve. That my butthole puckered up a little bit.
Even if I wanted to do $100 or $100 ounce at wholesale, so that's 36% is tax. I mean, that's crazy. And again, we look at, if you look at all the legal states, it's interesting because like New York State has some of the highest tax in the country as far as cannabis tax, but the lowest tax to the consumer, because I think it actually works out to almost like, I don't know, it's like 13% or something like that, which is relatively low to the consumer, but it's taxed at almost every level. So the amount of tax that they collect is crazy. I mean, honestly, reducing that potency tax or eliminating the potency tax and just making it, a flat tax. I mean, they talked about 9%. I know 9% still sucks even as the farmer, but it's way better than 36%. So, I mean, it's an improvement. It's not a solution, but it's an improvement.
And I'm not a mathematician, but that did sound better.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
9 sounds better than 30 something.
Yeah. I mean, at least then I can put that money into prettier packaging or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, and I'd be curious to hear what Brad's got to say about this too when he comes on next week. I'm sure he's.
I look forward to tuning in for that one.
Yeah, Brad's great. I don't know a lot of super good journalists in this game, but I think Brad's doing a great job.
Well, you're not bad yourself, right?
Flattery will get you places, Steve.
Yeah. Hopefully on another interview.
Cool. Got Steve Halton here. I got one more question for you, Steve. Mm-hmm. And this is a question I like to throw at everyone, a little bit of like a hypothetical type of question. But if you were in charge of everything and you could go back and rewrite the legislation in New York, what would you keep? What would you change? And what would you fucking throw away? I'd be curious if you have any thoughts on how this could be better from your perspective, or, changes that could be made that would improve the market.
So again, I really like the fact that New York State said that anything that's sold in a legal dispensary has to be grown in New York State. I really think that that's amazing, because I mean that's supporting small business, that's supporting farmers. I mean, and that, I mean, in New York State, there's such the pride of, New York grown, New York made, New York produced. So, I mean, I think that that is one thing that they did really, really well. And I hope that they continue that and enforce that. So that being said, I do wish that they would have done something as far as enforcement early on for illegal dispensaries. I wish that they would have come up with some sort of protocol to be able to shut down some of those illegal shops, because I mean, they kind of should have known that would have happened. I really wish they would codify card, so that way all of the retailers would just open, because that would create more of a market. I mean, honestly, that would help the farmers, that would help the processors, that would help so many communities. I mean, that would be huge as far as restitution for the war on drugs, because I mean, it was a precursor for people to be able to get a card license to be able to be affected by the war on drugs, whether a drug related felony or something. So I mean, really just being able to do that, because that creates a huge market. And again, I mean, I go back to having proper representation on the board for the farmer. I mean, that's probably something else as well. I mean, I kind of touched base on that one, but I mean, honestly, having enough of a market would have fixed everything, and it still would fix everything. And there's still time for that, codifying card and letting these retailers be able to open. I mean, that'll make it to where, I can sell my flower a lot better. I know that then processors will be making more money and they can purchase more flower instead of just trying to do tolling. I mean, and then all of these people that are frustrated because they have not been able to open because they've been licensed. I mean, like, I'm happy to have the opportunity to be able to open up. I mean, as soon as they read my name off on the list, saying that I was licensed, I put seeds in the ground. And the card, they didn't. They were like, oh great, I got a license, now what? And they had to wait for the okay and still be able to go through a lot of the hoops, which I understand, regulations and compliance and things like that. But I mean, really just letting the market open, let the market flourish. I mean, it's difficult because there's a lot of regulations, and it seems like OCM is kind of micromanaging the industry before there's actually an industry or before there's a market. So, I mean, letting there be a market would be huge. You know, I mean, it helps so many people. I mean, I had these, you know, great expectations of being a lot more profitable, you know, which I don't even know what a profit is now, but maybe this year. So.
Damn, dude. Sorry to laugh at that, but
it's true. Yeah.
That's rough. And, you know, I've heard that from so many operators out here who are just struggling, especially with all the taxes. And I do want to slap this up here, too. From Dan Anchors, building the local market is the most beneficial way to build a larger market. Couldn't agree more. Dan, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for dropping that comment there. Yeah, so Steve, I'm at the end of my list. I want to thank you for joining me. But I always leave a little time at the end of the show for my guests. If there's anything we missed that you think is super pressing that you'd like to touch on, any shameless plugs or shout outs, now is the time. Steve Halton, thank you so much for joining me tonight, man. I appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, no, I mean, if I would love it if everybody would check out the website for our cannabis flower. It's reallifebotanicals.com. You know, if you are in New York and you go to a legal dispensary, go in and ask them for Real Life Botanicals, or please carry Real Life Botanicals. You know, been trying to do everything that we can to you know, build brand awareness, but again, it's tough. You know, and that support really helps. I mean, being in cannabis and hemp, you can't really you know, you can't get out there the way that you want to. You can't advertise. I can't promote. I mean, my social media ad accounts have been shut down for years. So honestly, having people actually ask for that. I mean, you can also follow the Facebook and Instagram pages. It's, again, Real Life Botanicals. If you are interested in hemp fiber, it's CNY hempprocessing.com. Also both on Facebook and Instagram. And I guess a shout out, I don't know if my kids will ever see this, but I definitely want to thank them because, you know, if it wasn't for my kids, I probably wouldn't have the strength to keep on going. And honestly, I do all of this for them. It's not just for me. You know, I want to make something better for them. Whether they take over this business one day, it's up to them. As long as they're happy, I don't care what they do. But I love them, and they're part of the reason why I get out of bed. I mean, I love weed in general, so I mean it is a lot easier to get out of bed to go do that. But you know, they're probably my biggest inspiration is my kids. Yeah, so
that seems like a great place to leave it. Steve Halton, I'm your host Caleb Teskey, reminding you that the devil is in the details, and the details are in the fine print. Peace, guys.